All right, everybody, welcome back to the number one AI podcast in the world.
In the world. That
I was
sounds so familiar for some
trying to be
reason.
J Cal. It works for them, right? The
I,
podcast is
I,
growing.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Dude, I just
Go
came
for it.
home semi recently from the Museum of the Rockies in Bozeman, Montana.
How's that?
Um, cool. Did I send you anything? We got to see.
You sent me a pic of a
Yeah.
dinosaur.
Yeah, they have the best preserved T-Rex skeleton in the world. So they have
Hmm,
like three different T-Rex displays, one outside, one soon after you get inside, and that's the cool, like old one. And then as you keep going, it gets more old-timey. You see some like old, I don't know, cars and carriages and cannons and random stuff. But then
that
you get
starts with
to
the letter
yet,
C.
yeah, anything that, okay, yeah, I don't know, it was only things that start with the letter C. But then you get to this other
Okay.
room in the back and they had just a ton more dinosaur stuff. So I was like, whoa, I figured we were almost done with it. And then it's like, oh, a couple more displays. And then you turn the corner and it's just like another giant T-Rex display with like the heads, like five T-Rex heads like circling it in a glass case on this side. And then over there is an entire wall of Triceratops skulls getting like smaller as you can see like every age, and then two Triceratops over there. Anyway, it was great. It was a ton of dinosaurs. So I'm not like huge on dinosaurs, but when you go there and you see these giant displays, it's pretty fun. So I had a good time. And then we watched a little space show that was voiced over by the guy that does the voice of, or that does the voice of, that plays Cassian Andor in Andor.
Okay,
So you know
okay.
that voice, and he voices it, and you sit in the room with like the dome, screen ceiling, and get to watch their little space show. So that was fun too. But yeah, speaking of, none of that had to do with AI, but it was interesting. So I wanted to
Okay,
share.
cool.
Yeah.
My brain's so broken that when you talked about the Triceratops skulls, I just pictured that meme of the little toucan, and it's like this is the size of a toucan skull, and it's got like the comparison picture of the toucan and then the picture of the skull. And like the caption says, you could have just told us. Like, it's so dark. It makes me laugh every time. Okay, anyways, we should probably get started with the actual AI stuff.
Probably.
Right? AI is gonna
Probably.
bring down the cost of eggs, bro. It's gonna
Wait,
happen.
really?
Yes, maybe. I don't,
Should
I'm
we
not a
elect
farmer,
eggs as
but
president?
that's not how that works. Okay, anyways. Dude, you can't say stuff like that. People actually listen to us. Okay, I feel like we should start with all the random weird tidbits. Maybe all I have is random weird tidbits, though.
No, I liked your subtle foreshadowing at the eggs, but you want to talk about other stuff first?
Well, yes, because I'm
Because
going
the
to talk
eggs is a
so
big
long
story.
about that. That's a big
Yeah.
story. Yeah, absolutely. So there were, I don't know, I was looking at some flops, I guess, this week. Especially Apple. We really like to hate on Apple intelligence on this podcast, I've noticed, which
I love
is
their
kind of
phones,
cruel.
but yeah, not their AI.
Funny. Yeah, just talking about how they've like their AI generated headlines that they do for news stories to like, help people stay informed, how some of them have been completely untrue and very dramatically so. And it's like, yeah, that news story about the guy who what is being charged for murdering that chief executive of the healthcare.
Mm, yes.
There's like a headline that
Luigi.
popped up on someone's phone, yeah, that said that Luigi himself and he didn't. It's so anyway, so things like that, slip ups like that with Apple is like, and I'm reading this article, and of course, like all the other intelligences have slip ups too. So it could just be an absolute one fluke, but I know that the BBC has like completely cut out AI from using its content, and like
Mm,
there are other news sources that we've talked about before are like really trying to block AI from using their stuff. However, you can block AI from doing it. Um, and there are other news sources that are trying to like, partner up with AI and make things work. And anyway, but I just was reading that again and was like, not like terribly surprised just because
hmm.
we all mock Apple and here we go
I
again.
yeah, I feel like AI could tell the news and share the news from a personal account, like an account on a social media platform that's managed by someone, but it's fully run by AI. But I don't think any big organization should be using it for their news. or like putting it in charge of any operations like that yet. It's not good enough. It's not reliable enough.
It's got to
So
be close though, right? It's got to be right 99% of the time. Like probably, you know? I
93.
okay, I guess.
Yeah. When it's Apple, maybe less.
I don't know, man. It just wasn't it just happened to be Apple, and so I was like, oh man, good grief. The other one was that I was looking at was how they're talking about how Meta used all these pirated books to train its AI. Basically, there's this library called LibGen, which is it says a massive collection of pirated, copyrighted works, including millions of books and academic papers that they downloaded to train Llama AI. Um, Basically, their explanation of why they did this was they said, "Oh, everyone's doing it. It's fine." And we're pretty sure, it's no big deal because everyone's using this library of pirated books for their AIs. I don't know.
Wow.
But anyway, they got in there and they figured out exactly which books were used for the AI. So now here comes all the people on the social media platforms. One person actually was happy to be included, but in general, people are like really mad about their books being used without their permission. And so they're getting a lot of backlash from that. 7 articles of this one lady and just all these people
Wow.
saying they're gonna sue. Yeah, this guy said, really an honor just to be on this list with so many amazing authors. Though that doesn't mean I'm not suing. Okay. Oh man. Yep. Anyways. Oh, where was the other one? Meta pirated millions of books to train its AI. Crazy. I mean,
Wow.
it makes sense. I'm not like hugely surprised by this one either, but it's funny because, yep, it's coming back to them now. Just in the last few days, I think people have really
Yeah.
started looking into this and being angry.
I mean, speaking of sketchy or, big companies using sketchy methods,
Yeah.
Amazon, it's like only rumors right now, but they're very strong rumors that wants to jump on the AI train, not just with their stupid little Amazon
Rufus.
Rufus
You
helper
remember,
thing,
we'll always remember you, Rufus. You
but
were no help.
actually like, create their own reasoning model and try to compete with some of the big names. But
Okay.
they just took away a privacy policy where in the past it's there's privacy policies that said if you talk to your device about whatever conversations you can choose to keep them secure and not share those conversations with anyone, but they were like pulling that back so that basically every time you talk with your device it would send to the it'd be able to they'd be able to take that data and train AI off of it
That's
basically.
terrifying.
Well, yeah, and it's like for the most part they're going to get device turn on the light, but but still. But the other thing is the way that these models work, at least what seems to be the case, is that they can't actually process your voice on device. So when you say their name, it is a constant audio listening feed. Of course, they're constantly listening for that trigger word. And not
Okay.
only that, they're recording it and sending it to whatever place where then it, is able to tell when the word is said quickly,
Yeah. I said, is this the word? Yeah, yeah, yeah. No.
yeah,
I'm
exactly. Yeah. And then it, is able to activate the device so that it can listen further. But that means that it's constantly listening and constantly recording or being sent somewhere else, everything you say always. And so obviously that's not what they're saying publicly is we're just going to listen 24/7 out of every single one of our devices and train off of that. But if they do any version close to that, one, they could probably get to be one of the best AI models really fast. They'd have a ton of data to train on. But that is the beauty of like X and other platforms where when you post on X, you are posting publicly. You can even go into your settings and turn off the ability for AI to train off of it. But when they're training XAI, they have a lot of information to train off of. But Amazon and some other companies have to be a little sketchy if they want to use what they do best and try to turn it into AI generation or training data. So,
I
but yeah, so people were seeing that privacy get like pulled away and they're like, huh, that's cool. Both the devices that we have are currently unplugged, and I'm like, I'll plug it in for a second if I need it to do something, but I don't use it almost ever. It can turn
yeah.
on one light and tell us when a package arrives, but so does my phone. So yeah,
Yeah, I feel like I'm in trouble here from all the times that I threatened to extinguish
You
our
were
parents.
always you were always the mean one to these devices, and all
I
of
always
us would look
was.
at you like, "Oh,
They
Jordan,
never
no,
worked well enough for me. It was like this thing
horrid robot."
like unplug it. Yeah, I always called it the horrid robot. I feel like I'm gonna pay for that now at some point. Also, I thought Apple was the one that was supposed to be listening to all of our conversations, so why isn't their AI better? I don't understand.
They don't even have an AI. That's the weird thing is that they use ChatGPT or whatever, and
Okay.
then somehow make it worse.
Okay, gotcha.
So I don't know. I don't know what AI. I don't know what Apple's doing. I feel like they uh, are always listening. I shouldn't trust them at all, but they're at least a company that's built on like where we care about privacy. So maybe it's all a front, but they at least try. And
That's
that's
fine.
kind of why AI was taking so long for them to get out too, is they're trying to keep it on device, which is very hard, or
Yeah,
basically the extent of that. But yeah.
that's crazy
Anyway.
about Amazon though. That's like a little freakish. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. You know how I feel about these. Yeah. And especially with them taking away the privacy policy, like I'd expect them to just start listening and using the information, even though they said they
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Yeah. I'm like, why are you telling us that you're gonna do it? Okay.
Right? Everybody's doing it. It's no big deal.
Maybe we should praise them for their honesty. Like, thank you for being so transparent with us. We already knew you were gonna do it, but it's nice to know that it's
I guess
happening.
so. Kudos to Amazon for letting us know that our privacy is no longer a thing.
Privacy? What is that?
I
Yeah.
mean, we knew this, but still. My
And
phone's it's listening to everything I say.
I know it's right here. Speaking of XAI, because I mentioned it, Grok
Yeah.
uh, released a deeper search option. It's a quick update, but
Oh my
just they
gosh.
had deep search, and now you can click it to change it to deeper search. It'll take a little bit more time and do a more in-depth search. But I already like that feature better than ChatGPT's deep search, so or
Okay.
deep research. Sorry, get the name right. That was cool. You want me to keep sharing some random ones?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about eggs. That was literally so random. But I was just a random story that I came across with. I mean, okay, so sorry, side note.
Wow.
I was thinking today about party games. Because we're planning the party for our kid turning 1, and we actually had to postpone it because we just got very, very ill. But I was thinking about party games, and I was thinking like, oh man, you know what we should do? Because I was thinking about all my friends and their current occupations. It's like, let's play a game called Why Shouldn't We Replace You with a Robot? And everyone just has to build a case about why they are important in their job as a human being. Because I can think of a few of our friends that I'm like, probably gonna be replaced by a robot. I'm just gonna say, and it's nothing against them. It's just the nature of their occupation, If you don't do a lot of face-to-face stuff, you could get replaced by a robot pretty quickly. Probably shouldn't say that. It's kind of mean. But then I was like, oh, what kind of party game would that be? Would that be fun or would it just be depressing? You know?
Hmm.
Anyway, I forget why I started talking about that. That was my side note. But the story about the farmers,
Eggs.
oh, all I was gonna say, eggs, guys, the eggs. I was just, oh my gosh, speaking of eggs, that might have been what like killed us. Oh my gosh, I literally threw away the rest of the carton. I'm like, just in case we were dead. Okay, anyway, so speaking of eggs, oh yeah, the farmers. People, I'm just saying everyone should be using AI in their jobs, and the farmers are too, in multiple ways, I think. But this one was the silly one it's not silly, it's important, that I came across was just that they're using AI to figure out like the prime conditions for egg laying for hens. And so they're like having it shut off, like the computer shuts off the fan at the perfect time and then turns it back on at the perfect time to maintain like the ideal temperature that they have found is the best temperature for egg laying. So they're tracking like the light and the humidity and the air quality and how everything fits together to make the perfect, to have the most eggs produced. And I just think that's smart.
Hmm.
I think people should do that with everything. Just analyze, 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 and then use what's best. And
And
they're
then
doing this stuff. It's cool.
prices can come down.
Right, that's the goal. Well,
Yeah.
just more eggs would be great because it's not really we're having other problems other than just the pricing. Like, there's not many eggs right now, so
I feel like
more
that's a
would
good
be
thing.
good.
But then again, we come from a family of no one can have eggs.
I usually can. I'm usually fine, but I was like vomiting. Okay, anyways. So gross. Yeah. Hey, speaking of farmers, didn't you have a note on them? What else are they up to? Bum, 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 bum. Go for it.
Now that you've truly embarrassed yourself. Yes, my other note was that I guess some farmers, I don't know, because this is like a story about like farmers are now doing this, and I'm like, well, I have two farmers done it, but are using drones and AI to monitor crops and then be able to spray the right spots, which saves time and cash, so they don't have to just go over the whole field every single time, but they can instead be like, what needs it? And that kind of what over analyzation that normally we wouldn't be able to do as humans or over analyzing can now be done. And so that's kind of cool. You can be even more efficient and it doesn't take up more of your time, especially if it's automated drones and AI, then that's pretty cool. And it's not, AI replacing farmers, it's AI making farmers way more efficient. So
Sure.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping that we see more of this, the eggs or um, the drones, just ways for farmers to become more efficient because obviously farming isn't something, yes, through machinery automated by robots and AI, maybe eventually a farm could be fully sufficient or self-sufficient on using technology only. But I feel like we're a long ways from that. I feel like we're going to need farmers for a while, and I'd
Yeah.
rather they just get empowered by new technology, which is what usually happens for them. I mean, they got the plow, and then they got the tractor, and then they got so we still want farmers. We just want them to be able to do a lot more. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's it for my list. Do you have other stuff?
wow. Yeah, NASA's got an AI called Dagger that supposedly predicts
Really?
solar storms 30 minutes before they hit. We're getting closer to predicting weather, Jordan. This is going to be crazy. So
I don't
one,
believe it.
they haven't actually really tested it. Um, so we'll see if it even works. They tried it on past data and it came to the conclusion and it was accurate to what happened after that data. So if they're like, oh, in 2012, look at this data, and it's like there will be a solar flare, and then they can look in 2013 and there was a solar flare, and they're like, oh, it was right, cool. But it has yet to actually predict anything in the future. But it's still cool to see. I hope we can get to the point that we can see certain things. I mean, like tornadoes, wind patterns, they're pretty unpredictable, but which I know it has to do with wind. But if like tsunamis and solar storms, especially, we could predict in advance, that'd probably be beneficial because we know where it's going to hit, where it's going to impact, and those companies can shut off or evacuate or whatever in advance.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, sounds promising. Cool.
yeah, a portrait of Edmond de Bellamy.
Okay.
Uh, because I pronounced that right. Sold for $432,500, and it's an AI painting. So it's the most expensive
Okay.
AI
What does that
painting
mean?
sold. What?
What does AI painting mean? Is this actual paint? Did a robot paint this?
It's created by an artificial intelligence using the formula at the bottom right corner. So it was created by AI.
So the jury's still out. Might have been a painting.
The
Might have been a
print is
painting.
known for being sold,
Print.
so they
Okay.
printed it.
That's probably not real paint then. I really
No,
wanted it to be real paint. Dang it.
we need to get a robot then too. It
I
can't just be
know.
AI.
I was
We'll
excited
have
about
robot
the
painters
robot.
eventually. No,
Well,
the
good.
point was just that it was made by AI and it was the most expensive one sold so far, and it was way
Nice.
above its estimate was like 7,000 or 10,000, but then there was a bunch of online hype about it and conspiracy and weirdness, so then it got the hype grew and someone bought it for that much. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That is dumb. But
I know
also,
it's like, oh no, AI is replacing us with art stuff too, or whatever, but it's not. It's just because it's attached to AI, it's cool for a minute and then it won't be.
people
So
have bought weirder art.
NFTs
Yeah. That banana that was duct taped to the wall that it was
in
art too.
the ad.
No, that's a real thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they made fun of it in the ad, but
I've
unless
only
I'm
seen
like
it in the ad.
really stupid, but I'm pretty sure that was a real thing.
Right, but you're not really stupid. So anyway, and then the last update I had is because we were talking about on our last podcast what would happen if we gave AI rights and whether or not we'd want to give AI rights. Last podcast or the podcast before that. But I looked it up and I found an older update. Sophia, a robot named Sophia from Saudi Arabia, was granted citizenship in 2017. So this was a while ago, but they built a robot, and then there was this whole like, publicity stunt kind of whatever where the government actually granted it citizenship. And so it was like full on rights and stuff, but they never explained what it actually meant. And of course, the robot couldn't do much other than kind of socialize and make facial expressions. So it didn't go anywhere, but it's to the point of time that I don't think we should do that anymore. Grant it citizenship without like,
Stop granting robots rights.
yeah, I know. Like before we have a serious conversation about this, let's not do that again because if I don't know, granting it full citizenship means it can do things that you can do under the law, which means like marry and drive and well, I was gonna say murder, but probably not that. But
That's not legal,
go to
actually,
jail,
bro.
go to jail and vote and all sorts of weirdness. And it's like, let's just not have robots going out there as citizens yet. But anyway, it was weird that it had already happened and all the way back in 2017. So pretty random.
Very weird.
I still don't think that we should ever give AI robots rights. The most rights robots should ever have are like how my apartment has rights because it's protected under certain things. It doesn't have rights. It's just, like obviously if I own a robot, then if someone damages my property, something could happen, but the robot itself should never have its own rights. That's my vote. It's a piece of technology.
Yep.
You can't
My brain's
disagree
going
because you
on
know I'm
another
right.
track. Uh, whatever you say, Nathan.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, my brain's going back on the track of like, how weird is it going to be to talk to a robot that doesn't have a soul? Because some of these like sound really convincing and they don't sound all empty and crazy like you'd expect them to. So that's kind of freaky. Because what if there was a robot
I mean, I
citizen?
talked to you.
What if there's a, that doesn't make any sense. What if there's a robot citizen like from the movies who just look like a human? Like,
I don't think it'll be that weird. I
mine.
think that I don't want a humanoid robot still, but yeah. Cool.
Alrighty, well,
Well, there's my
good.
list. Do you wanna thank the
Thank you.
listeners? Quick
Thank
update.
you, listeners.
All right. Well, it's late here.
Yeah, it is. Thanks for doing it late after my kid
Hmm.
went to sleep. Makes it very convenient. I appreciate it.
I'll see you next week then.
All right, see you next week.
Peace.
Peace.
Not us freaking out about nothing.
Eggs.
Eggs.